Hello everybody, my name is Alan and welcome to Crimicide True Stories, the show where we take the best stories from our true scary stories and share them with you guys. I'm very excited about today's episode of True Stories. Today I'm collaborating with fellow creator Sweet Lovely Death. His channel is similar to mine. He explores urban legends, true crime, horror, and other creepy things that piques his interest, and the link to his channel will be in the description below. Today's final story tells of a creature that wouldn't be out of place in a horror novel, so stick around for that. And with that, let's get into today's stories. This first story is from Reddit user It's Joku. This happened about a year ago or so. I did write it down when it first happened, but something deep inside of me just felt like I shouldn't. Like something was watching over my shoulder, begging me to delete it. I don't know. It might have just been the shock of what happened looming over me. Alright, to the story. When me and my now ex-partner were still together, we used to be major gore freaks. We shared gore videos with each other and reacted to them together. A strange thing for a couple to do, I know. But we were both mentally ill teenagers who were heavily desensitized to that sort of stuff, so it didn't bother us that much. The 1444 video and the myth around it was starting to recirculate because of the Plague Moss video on it, and this was the first time me and my ex ever heard of it. If you didn't know already, 1444 is a video of a Russian guy shooting himself in the head that was posted on YouTube before being taken down days later. The myth behind this video is that you need to comment the date of when you watch the video in the comments within 24 hours, or something bad would happen to you. I think anyway, it's been so long since I last did research on it. I've always had tough skin, and all the myth stuff didn't really bother me that much. My ex, however, was absolutely terrified of that video. They fully believed the myths and refused to watch it. One day, I watched it without them, and lo and behold, I'm still alive and well. My partner got curious about the video, but still didn't feel entirely comfortable enough to watch it in its entirety. So I took 3 screenshots of the video, one before he shot the gun, one right after the blast, and one of the aftermath. I sent them to the ex over Instagram. Now here's where shit gets fucking weird. After the ex looked at them, they asked me to delete them because they felt uneasy with them and the myth behind them, which is valid, and I understand that. I deleted the first and the last image, but as I tapped on the second image to delete it, the option to delete it wasn't there. It was just missing. Me and my ex were on call during this entire thing. Me and my ex used to send lots of pictures back and forth to each other, and this has never happened before, and it has never happened since. I sent another random meme, non-gore image to see if it was just Instagram glitching out on us. I tried deleting that image, and it worked. It was one of that strange gore image that didn't want to delete. Me and my ex were both starting to really freak out by now, as Instagram started acting really slow as time went on. After rebooting the app 5 or so times, the delete option finally popped back up, and we deleted the image. We were both relieved and just tried to forget about what happened. The same day I sent another meme image to them through Instagram, and lo and behold, the image that popped up in the chat as I hit send in the innocent funny picture, that fucking 1444 screenshot, the second one that didn't want to delete. This time, it did delete on the first try, so that was something, but for the next couple of messages I sent to my ex, it was just that image. It's like the image was possessing my app and didn't want to go away. The screenshot has stopped popping up, and I haven't seen it in our chat since. The delete option disappearing glitch hasn't ever happened either. I still think about the situation and wonder what the fuck happened. Yeah, sure, it was just a glitch, but why the fuck would Instagram glitch out on a very specific, gruesome gore image that has rumors behind it?
This story was written by Mega ZX Retro. I was born and grew up in a town called Shrewsbury in Shropshire, England. The town has a reputation of being one of the most haunted places in the world. It's well over 1,000 years old, and a lot of the ruins of old buildings remain, even in the town center. Everyone I know growing up has some sort of experience, haunted or otherwise, at some point in their lives. So, getting to my most haunted experience that spans a number of years, these aren't my only experiences, but this is the one that has affected me the most. My grandparents have a house in the Bellevue area of town that all of the family, my mother and her siblings, grew up in. This house has a back bedroom that gives off a vibe that you just don't want to fuck with. It's the only room in the house that has the door always closed and is now used as a storeroom that my nan refuses to enter alone. It was used when I was a kid as a spare bedroom for me when my brother would stay over, but we hated being in that room. One night, me and my brother were asleep in there, and I woke up just in time to look over and see the lighting fixture on the ceiling next to my head. I can even remember the feeling of cold plaster touching my cheek right before whatever the fuck was lifting me let go. I hit the mattress and immediately started screaming, obviously, and my dad burst into the room to find out what happened. I told him everything, but he was obviously skeptical. But I even remember him saying that the room was very cold even though the heating was on, and there was an odd feeling he couldn't explain. My brother, who was asleep during my incident, said he had a dream that night of an old man standing over him, shouting for him to get out, and to this day he's reluctant to talk about it because of how it felt. Now, this is where it starts to get worse. I was told this was over a month after the first incident, but I was at home in my house on the other side of town and it happened again. Me and my brother at this time used bunk beds and I slept on the top bunk. My dad was downstairs watching TV and all of a sudden he said he got a feeling something was wrong. Then realized the feeling he had was the same as it was when I had the incident at my nan's. He ran up the stairs, burst into the room just in time to catch me falling from the ceiling. I'd been picked up, lifted over the bed safety rails, and was hanging with my head tilted towards the ground. And my dad burst in to see me hanging there in midair for a split second before I dropped and he caught me. He was terrified and could never explain what happened. Nothing ever happened again until I was in my mid-20s. My nan was heading out somewhere for an overnight stay, so I said I would stay the night, feed the dogs, and sleep on the sofa, but woke up in the morning in the spare room, at the back of the room behind a load of storage boxes. It took me 5 minutes of moving boxes out of my way to reach the door and get out, and to this day now, 14 years later, I've no idea how the hell I got in that room, over those boxes, and out the back section of the room without damaging anything. I've never been more frightened after waking up in all my life, and I've never stayed another night in that house since. My nan refuses to talk about that room. My granddad was the same prior to his death. I've no idea what happened in that house, what spirit or worse is living in that back room, but I'll never go back in that room for as long as I live.
This next story is from Reddit user Charcoal Syrup. Hello, this is my first time sharing my story to the people of Reddit. I'm Angeline, and I live in a very small house with my dad, grandma, and cousins. I was 12 when I experienced this very real-like phenomenon, and I just want people to know if they also have experienced this. I was in the bed with my dad, and I wasn't doing anything besides playing on my phone and watching some YouTube videos, when suddenly I fell asleep out of nowhere. In my dream, I was sitting on a small chair facing a dining table, and next to that was a bunch of relatives I don't remember talking to. I don't particularly know what they were saying, because obviously I don't pay much attention to any of my dreams. A few minutes had passed in my dream when my dad suddenly got angry and started shouting at me, saying something I don't quite understand. My body moved quickly, telling me that something bad is going to happen. I ran towards the door, but before I could get out, one of my cousins grabbed my legs and was trying to keep me from running away. They all have this strange face. It was eerie and creepy. I kicked my cousin in the face, and I quickly escaped my cousin's grip. I was running through multiple obstacles, and I'm quite impressed because I was dodging every hit they gave me. And I'm telling you, I was chased by clones of various fat, chubby people who has black pants and pale skin. I looked back and saw an entity. It was a very black, shadowy entity, and when I saw it, my body immediately panicked. The time goes slow, and my whole heart was pounding. It was a roller coaster of emotions. But some girl grabbed my hand and ran so fast I mistook her as one of my friends because she looked like one of my childhood friends. We stopped running suddenly, and while I was looking at my surroundings, I saw that we were in a highway. I told her that we need to run away from the monster, but she looked at me saying this: "We can't run anymore." I was frightened because her grip started getting too tight on my hand. I was afraid, and I couldn't do anything. I looked down on my feet and saw there were blood, and there were some kind of hands forming on the floor, and it looked like it was going to drag me down. It did. When I woke up, my chest felt very heavy, as if I were trapped in something so tight and unbreakable. I cried and I ran upstairs, and I didn't tell my parents. I don't know why, but it still haunts me to this day. Before we get into today's final story, big shout out to Sweet Lovely Death for helping me on this episode. The link to his channel will be in the description below. He makes awesome content, and you guys should definitely check it out. Lastly, I would like to talk to you all about the good word, and that word is crimicide. And I want you to spread the word. Spread it to your friends, to your family, to the FBI agent that listens in on your phone calls. Just grab anybody you can and tell them to subscribe to Crimicide. I'm moving across the country in November, and it's a personal goal of mine to hit 1,000 subscribers before then, and if you guys could help me out, I'd be eternally grateful. And with that, let's get into today's final story.
This story was written by Sufficient Present 63. So this happened to me in July of this year. Just to give context of where I was, to discount any of the possible wildlife explanations, at the time I lived in the Midwest in a suburban area, fairly populated near a very populated city. There was nowhere that could have been considered rural within at least a 40-mile radius. So anyways, to start my experience, it was late at night and I was hanging out with my golden retriever Leo, who was just turning a year old in a couple weeks at the time. I was just watching YouTube in my room while he lay on the floor next to me. It was about 12:30 a.m. and I was ready for bed, so I had to take him out before we both went to sleep. So got him on his leash and we went outside. My family and I live in a large apartment complex. The apartments have quite a few rooms and their own personal garage, but still have 8 to 10 apartments per building, so the buildings are very long and slim. Behind our building is a long strip of grass that goes out about 15 feet, and then a large tree line that is 20 feet deep and about 200 feet long. Leo and I go out the front around the building to the back, as we don't have an exit to the back. We're on the second floor and we have our own separate entrances. We make it to the back to the grassy area and I walk out into the grass with him to let him do his business. I'm on my phone, not paying attention really, and we stand there for a good minute. I realize it's been a good amount of time and notice Leo hasn't moved one bit. I turn off my phone and look to him and realize he hadn't moved from the spot we stopped at and was looking at the other building right by the woods. He'd been frozen the whole time. I pet him and he looks up at me, and when I stop petting him, he looks straight back at the same spot. I hadn't at the time realized that he was looking at that spot the whole time until then, and looked over to where he was looking at. My eyes were not adjusted to the darkness and only could see the shadow of the building. The only source of light was the streetlights about 50 feet behind us. I look back at him and quietly chuckle because I thought he'd just heard a squirrel and was all perked up. It was pretty cute, and then I looked back at my phone. Leo, in the corner of my eye about 15 seconds later, flinched back as if he had been startled by something and started to whine. I looked over at this spot this time and realized now he was scared of something he saw while we had been out there. My eyes were now adjusted to the dark. I saw what he was fixated on. In the shadow of the building, right next to the corner of the wall, in front of the tree line, about 15 feet away from me, was that creature. I could only see a black outline as it was not lit up enough, but it was massive. I know how tall the building was relative to me. When it was standing right next to the building, it was about 5 feet tall. That wouldn't be very tall if it were standing upright, but the thing was on all fours. The best way I can describe how it looked is when a bulldog snarls and kind of flexes its front legs when trying to intimidate something, but was scaled up to 5 feet tall and had more muscle. Its outline was much wider. There's no way that this was any creature in the Midwest. The only creature that is remotely close to that is a black bear. That's only way up north, nowhere near where I am in the southeastern part of my state. There are no woods area for a bear to live in anyways, as stated in the beginning. Plus, the max height of a black bear on all fours is 3 feet, not very broad. This thing surpassed that by a long shot and was very broad. I jumped back in fear and was just frozen after that for a solid 30 seconds, just staring at it. I then backed away slowly, keeping my eye on it the whole time. Leo then began to growl and snarl at it as we rounded the corner. Leo has never acted aggressive like that before, so that just made me even more terrified. And then I peeked around the corner. No more than a second later and it was gone. No noise, no shadow swiftly moving behind the building, just gone. There's no way something like that could have moved behind the building so fast without a sound, especially that size. This freaked me out even more, and I sprinted back inside of the house. I would really like to think that I was hallucinating this and was just tired, but it was clear as day, even during the night. I have never told anyone about this story before, and it freaks me out to this day. P.S. This is my second post ever, and I'm not a good writer, so I apologize for the lengthiness of the story. That could have been very short. I probably could have shortened this down a lot, but I wanted to make sure the details were good enough to visualize it in your head.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I definitely enjoyed collaborating with Sweet Lovely Death, and once again, The link to his channel will be in the description below. Also, so will the links to the stories we read today. I was recently informed that I should probably do that so people can read the stories for themselves. So yeah, if you want to read these stories for yourselves, the link to each one will be in the description. Also, stick around because summer 2022, if you didn't see my previous video, Crime-A-Side Paranormal will be debuting its first episode, and I think I've got myself a location already set up. With that, I'll see you guys in the next video.